Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be removing the 91 Eunos Roadster dashboard. Now keep in mind that the process is identical for left-hand drive Miatas, so don't worry about any discrepancies, it's just on the opposite side of the car. Once we have the dash out, we're going to be refinishing it by respraying the front faded panel layer to match the rest of the interior. We're going to strip the anti-reflective black coating off the top section of the dash and then wrap that part in black Alcantara to freshen it up. Throughout the whole process of removing the dashboard, I'm following this manual from Miata.net. It's very thorough and explanatory, and if you intend on attempting what I'm doing in this video, I'd recommend you go check it out and read it front to back. I'll link to it in the description below. So as you can see, I've already removed the eyeball vents. And then I want to show you here that the gauge hood in this car has already been removed, and that's because it actually developed a crack months ago and it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and then when we tried to remove the gauge hood it broke right off. So normally you would just loosen the two Phillips head screws, one on either side on the bottom, and then you just very carefully and gingerly pull it out from either side straight back, and that should release it from the spring clips that are normally located there. It was pretty difficult sourcing a right-hand drive gauge hood because there is a difference in the design of the hood. The curvature is different between left-hand drive and right-hand drive. Here you can see the three spring clips at the top back of the gauge hood that I was talking about. They can be quite brittle. Obviously not the metal part, but the plastic part that holds them in. They can snap off. So you just got to be very careful with it during removal and reinstall. Now I'm going to remove the steering column cover. First I'm going to take out the Phillips head screws that are underneath. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the access panel on the driver's side. And next up is the glove box. Now it's time to remove the gauge cluster. I'm actually going to be installing some rev limiter gauges that I bought for my girlfriend while I'm doing this, but I'm going to cover that more extensively in another video, and I'll put the link to that video in the description below. So just keep in mind that when you're reinstalling the gauge cluster later, it's just the reverse procedure of what you're about to see. Speedo cable can be a pain in the butt. Just carefully pull it back. There we go. Now I wanted to show you that in this particular car, it actually has a trunk button, and I know that that's from factory because there's no space for a trunk release lever. Now, this is a V-Special version 1. It's not just a standard Miata or Eunos Roadster, so that could be a feature that was included with the special edition car. But I'm curious to see what's underneath here. Now, when my girlfriend first got this car, her brother Brendan removed the window switches. Well, he just basically disconnected them and left them in, obviously, and he actually installed manual wind down door cards, and so those were already disconnected. But it looks like the trunk button here doesn't have a cable, it actually has wires, so it's an actual electronic button. It doesn't look like I can disconnect that at the bottom there, so I'm gonna have to take off the button. There's 2 Phillips screws in here. I tried for a couple minutes to take those screws out, and I thought maybe they were stripped or they just weren't grabbing for some reason. Meanwhile, there's these 2 9mm nuts underneath, so now I need to hold the screws and take the nuts off with my ratchet. Okay, so now I finally got this loose. And it looks like there's 2 connections on the bottom that I can just pull right off. And they really don't make this easy. There's these 2 connections on here, but they're covered with these little rubber or plastic protectors, so you gotta slip those down. And then grab my Phillips screwdriver, and you gotta remove them. Now we can go ahead and finally remove the whole console. There we go. Now I have to remove the tombstone. So in this car there's just 3 screws. Just like the gauge should, just gently pull it back. So the next step in removing the HVAC panel is to remove the control cable. You got to slip it off there and then remove it from the clip. And there's one on the driver's side and one on the passenger side. Now I'm going to disconnect the plugs holding the panel in and remove the entire unit with the cables attached. Looks like I forgot a cable. There's the third cable underneath the glove box. It was kind of silly to be yanking on the unit without disconnecting the third cable. I mean, obviously there's 3 functions, but just don't make the same mistake I made. It kind of disconnected itself, but nothing seems to be broken. So now I can finally remove the unit. Now at this point in the video, I'm going to cease going through each individual step of which plug to disconnect and which bolt to take out. To see the detailed steps, you can refer to the Miata.net manual that I mentioned earlier. Right now we're on page 18, dropping the steering column and hood release. So here we are on the steering column. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take some snips to the zip tie that holds these harnesses onto the column. Then I'm going to disconnect these plugs here so all the wiring will be free. Then there's 4 12mm nuts to take off in order to be able to drop the column. There's 2 at the bottom, and then there's 2 up top here, 1 on either side. After that, I'm going to take a 17mm wrench to the nut that holds this hood release on. So now that we've dropped the steering column, next step is to remove all these plugs as well as this cable here. Now that we've dropped the steering column, we can finally go ahead and pull this dashboard out. Now the very final step before removing the dashboard is to remove these 2 screws on the support bar. It's finally time to take the dash out. And it's not coming up. Oops. My side is too far out. I should have removed the seat. Okay. All this stuff needs to come off. All these plugs back here. Now, although we didn't take the steering wheel out, something I should have done at the very beginning was remove the seat. It makes it so much easier to drop the steering column and give you way more space to take the dash out. Yes! Oh, there's one more thing to disconnect.
Okay, honey. Where is it? Honey?
Oh shoot. It's a ground strap. You gotta be kidding. That wasn't the last strap. And we're free. No, we're not. One more clip.
No.
Yes! I can take this. It's 10 o'clock at night, and the dash is finally out. So this is day 2 of the dash refinish project. There's the dash. It's time to get to work. I have to change my shirt. I'm burning up. So now Rachel's gonna strip the black paint off the top of the dashboard, and for that we have some Duplicolor grease and wax remover. People say that this is the best thing to use, so we're gonna try it and see how it works. You don't want to get this stuff on your fingers. While my girlfriend's removing the black paint from the dashboard, I'm going to be spraying the trim panels, and we found that online people say this is the best color-coded paint for these panels. It's SEM Camel 15173, and we'll see how close the color is. While we're waiting for the panels to dry, I'm gonna apply some of that paint to the seats and see if I can freshen them up a bit.
Okay, so right now we are going to snip these, and just for looks, and then we are going to put this diamond pattern gutter guard that we got from Lowe's in the States, and we're just going to put it underneath here after we cut those out for looks, and I love it.
I want to cut it as close as possible because we're going to wrap the leather around inside of these grates, so I don't want any little nubs to be exposed. That's working. from that to that. So to adhere the Alcantara to the dash, we've chosen to use this Super 77 fabric spray. Hopefully it'll do the job.
Start.
Just a little bit more, okay? Awesome job. So what's next?
So now we are going to cut this, trim it a bit so that we can wrap it around the corners here and all the edges to our liking. And then we're gonna glue the rest of this part over here in the back, which we haven't done yet.
Awesome. So what we've taken to doing is using these clothespins to hold the Alcantara in place over the bend of the dash, and this spray-on stuff doesn't seem quite as sticky as the stuff that you apply with the paintbrush, so this is what we're having to do to keep the fabric on and from peeling off during the set time. And we cut slits in the corners here so we can wrap it around cleanly around the edges there. And now we're just waiting for this to dry for a little bit. We're finally done wrapping the dash. All the way around. We worked late into the night today, and it was pretty tedious wrapping it all around the corners. We used a credit card to push it into that seam there on that edge, and we held it in place with the clips, and looks pretty good. It was easy around here. We'd already glued it section by section, and the glue oversprayed into this area here, so this was all already glued. I just had to trim it back with the box knife, and this will all be covered by the gauge hood, so it doesn't need to be super clean. The trickiest part was getting this to adhere wrapped around that edge. It kept wanting to come off, and then when we stuck the clips on there, the clips would slip back and it would create some slack and pinch the fabric, and so that was a pain in the ass, honestly, and took us a long time to make it stay. We actually just used the rear of some tweezers and pushed it back, which was Rachel's idea. My girlfriend's a genius. But tomorrow, yeah, we're gonna tackle the defrost vents, cut the hole, and tuck it in there, and put the grate underneath. And we're falling asleep here, so that's a wrap for today. I just wanted to show you this part about wrapping the Alcantara or whatever upholstery you're using around the inside of these defrost holes. So best thing to do is cut it right down the center of the hole. Unfortunately, my cut, initially I tried to cut close on either side and strip out the middle, but that was not a good idea, and I ended up with not enough. You can see here, it's hard to see, but that's the dash exposed right there a little bit, so it couldn't actually wrap all the way around. So you want to leave as much evenly on either side of the hole for it to wrap all the way around. See, on this side we have enough. But what I had to do was, because I got the spray adhesive, and the only reason we got the spray, by the way, rather than the one that was applied with the brush or whatever you use, is because we were looking for the 3M Super 77 adhesive, and the only one that they had was the spray, so we just went with it, and it worked for the dash. But for these little details, it's very hard to use because you get overspray no matter how much you try to protect everything. Like this is overspray. That's not the dash, that's the that's actually not Super 77, that's the paint that I use for the dash. But nonetheless, when you're using aerosol, it's easy to get overspray, right? So I picked up this glue from a fabric store, actually, and it seems to be working really good for this part. So it's clear and it sets pretty quickly, so I just applied it on the inside of the fabric. Because there's not much, I wrapped it around. Thankfully there was just enough that it would adhere to the underside of like the inside of this hole, and then just use these clips to hold it on, and it's working pretty well. So check this out. We were having trouble sticking these corner vents in, the vent covers rather. It went in really easily on this side, but then it just wasn't staying down here. So on Rev Limiter, Adam used 4 tiny little bolts, one on each corner, to secure it, and I thought that was cool. But firstly, I couldn't find those type of bolts, and secondly, I figured I only really needed one at the very bottom, and it doesn't look quite as sophisticated, but Rachel's at work right now. I just sent it to her over Messenger, and she loves it. She doesn't even want me to paint the screws black. So, well, they are bolts. They don't actually have a tip. Here, I'll show you. They're number 6. I wanted a number 5, but I couldn't find one, so I just got these number 6 by 1 inch Robertsons. I used a tiny drill bit and just drilled a hole straight through both and just threaded it in, and it works.
It looks so heavy and it's so not.
Well, the dash is fully wrapped, and we've got the side vents in. We've got the grating in at the defrost vents. So I'll show you what I did here. It looks so nice. But underneath, so I got some JB weld and I tried to use it and it just wasn't working. Like I had the whole thing flipped upside down and I clamped the mesh on and I put pressure on it and held it for a while, and I used like a 50-50 split mix of the glue and the hardener, and it just didn't work. And because of the tension of the curved dashboard with the rigid mesh, it just popped right off. So that was useless. But then I picked up some like instant cement stuff, and it was much easier to use. I just again put some pressure on the grate while I was upside down and applied it to either side. And on this side it's much cleaner of a job. You can see it there, just a little bit there and a little bit there, and it held it on nicely. Took about 12 hours to, well, it took about an hour to set, and then 12 hours until I was confident it was fully hardened. Sorry, not instant cement, it's contact cement, and this stuff worked really well for doing those grates. So I mean, other types of epoxy might work, but I'd recommend using this stuff for that, what we did. I don't know, what are you doing?
I don't know a thing about duckwork, honey. I just know we're putting it on there.
Well, then say it.
Okay. We are now going to put this back onto the dash with screws.
With screws?
With screws.
What's so special about the screws?
They fit.
We're doing it with screws.
The screws
Not with
fit.
glue. The screws do fit because they came on there originally. So make sure that if they came with screws, you reuse the screws and don't use like putty or, you know, Play-Doh or something. Here's the dash fully installed. It's so beautiful. Well, thank you very much for watching the video. That's pretty much all there is to it. I hope you found it informative and maybe a little bit amusing as well. It was a really laborious project, and if you intend on attempting it yourself, I would recommend having an assistant. I couldn't have removed it, wrapped it, and reinstalled it like I did without Rachel's help. I'd love to see any photos or videos of projects that you guys do to your Miatas. Just send them over to me on my Facebook or Instagram at the Miata Dude. Well, that's about all I have to say for this video. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.
Take it easy.